Welcome, and thanks for subscribing to my channel. I want to talk to you about first steps in identifying family patterns and family behavior too. So, the first thing you're going to do is Google blank pedigree chart. FamilyTreeMagazine.com always has lots of different charts for genealogy work, but you just need a blank pedigree chart. Typically, the ones you're going to find online are 4 generations. So some are 5. Get whatever you're comfortable with, and I'll show you what they look like. Um, eh, sorry, technology. I love it. Okay, they look like this. This first solo is you. Above you is your father. Below is your mother. And back through your father's parents, your mother's parents, and your father's grandparents, your mother's grandparents. The chart is telling you the relationships. So this one says father, mother, grandmother, great grandmother, etc. So just get a chart and print it off. It'll look kind of like this without all my messy scribbles on it. Okay. So what you're going to do is take all of your court cards out of your deck. And if you don't know tarot, those are the pages, knights, queens, and kings. There's 16 of them, 4 in each suit. You're going to start, you can start wherever you want on this chart. You can start with you, or you can start way back here. Your choice. So you're going to draw a court card for whomever you've started with. Write it down in the blank space. Put the court card back in your deck of 16. Go to the next person, draw a court card, write it down, put it back in the deck. So you're going to do this for all the people on the blank chart. Now, the one that I showed you on my iPad, this one from Family Tree, if you count yourself as generation 1, it goes back 3 more generations. The one I filled out for myself goes back 4 generations for me. So I end up with 31 people. Uh, again, choose what you want. So once you've got everybody filled in with a court card, you can start looking at patterns. So, for example, what if through generations people were swords and all of a sudden there was an ancestor who was a cup? They were breaking a pattern. Could be a bad pattern, could be a good pattern. We don't know. It's just a pattern breaker. What else can you do? I color I color coded suits. So the pink are cups, greens, pentacles, etc. Because for me, looking at the colors helps me identify, is there a predominance of one suit? And in mine, swords were far more swords than there were any other suit. And in mine, there were far more queens than any other suit. So looking back at my own family, I know that there were a lot of teachers, so they were pretty cerebral. A doctor, cerebral. Um, Learning was a priority. So it's not surprising that there's a huge family tree of swords. What about the queens? Well, interestingly, because in ancestral tarot, you we differ from traditional tarot in that we don't look at gender. So Queen of Cups could be a man. We're looking at energy. Okay. So what does it mean to have all those queens? Well, as it happens in my family, the men died earlier. Not a surprise. Men have a lesser lifespan than women. But the women who then had to raise the family, the ones I knew of at least, were incredibly dynamic. I mean, they had to make things work, and so they did. Didn't matter how perilous their situation was. A great aunt of mine, the story goes, because I she died long before I was born. Um, Her husband was killed in a hunting accident. She had several children, and she had to survive. So she started taking in boarders to her house, people who would rent a room and she would provide their food and laundry. Okay. So it wasn't a surprise to me to see, just looking at my own chart, 10 queens out of those 31 people. The least was 5 kings. That was the least of the ranks. And in terms of suits for myself, the least were cups. There were only 5 cups in these 31 people. So do this first. Do the chart, draw a card for each position, color code them if you want. It just helped me visually. And just start looking for patterns. Okay. Also look for who might be an outlier. So if, for example, in one of mine, there was one generation that had a whole lot of queens, a lot of queens, and yet the next generation down had none. The next generation down had one. So if somebody was a queen, like let's say I had a queen in mine, I would have been an outlier because I would have been the first person with that energy in 4 generations. So, which means I'm kind of an outlier from family patterns. So, for me, that makes a ton of sense. The other thing that you can do is start looking at relationships. I'm making this very brief. I did a 3 hour presentation on this, so that you're getting a 10-minute video. You're getting the Cliff Notes version. And I'm happy to dig into it more if you leave a comment asking me to comment more on it. But another thing to look at is relationships. So I just pulled these out. Let me find what I wanted to show you. Pulled out a couple court cards. Now, what if you had a marriage between a King of Pentacles and a Knight of Pentacles? Well, this knight is the pokey knight. His horse is not moving. He's very methodical. He moves very slowly. This king has really mastered the physical. Do you think he's not going to get impatient with this person? And again, ignore gender because we're not doing gender based interpretation for ancestral work. So as it turned out in the chart that I'm working on, this was the husband, this was the wife. So do you think the wife would have gotten really frustrated with this guy? Possibly. Okay, so the next generation down, their child, find him, was this, the King of Cups. So you have 2 people, incredibly earthy, very practical, take care of everyday stuff, super grounded. And their child is the King of Cups. How did this King of Cups child feel in that family? Now, if this were a male child, my guess is he would have reacted, or his parents would have reacted to him differently than were this a woman. But think about that your whole focus is really groundedness, security, safety. You're financially secure, you're healthy, you have what you want, and your child is a dreamer. And your child sometimes sees things that he thinks are real that are illusionary. So, in other words, he could be very easily taken advantage of because he saw something as real, but it really was an illusion. Think of a Piscean energy. So, again, this is the Cliff Notes version, but look at the dynamic between parents and the child in your chart. Um, I think you're going to find it really interesting, and I think you will start seeing patterns and understanding why certain things happen. So, what happens if this King of Cups child in adulthood marries? I'll find a card here for you. Marries a Knight of Wands. So we know water and fire make steam, sizzle. This guy is a dreamer. This guy is a doer. How is this King of Cups going to relate to the child who is this very fiery, impulsive, action-oriented kid? So, I just want you to do the chart. Start looking for patterns. Leave me some comments. I'm happy to talk more about this because as I said, I just did a 3-hour presentation on this. There's a lot to dig into in your family tree just by using tarot and a pedigree chart like this. So leave a comment, let me know what you find and if you want to know more.